call this special meeting to order, and I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here. Until we get our governance and committees in place, this will serve as our finance committee, and I think meeting today will give us an opportunity to have a little bit more discussion regarding some cost-saving measures and consider staff's recommendations. So I think we're going to start today with roll call.
Rashani? Here.
Here.
Cosgrave?
Here. Here.
Here. Okay. We'll receive and approve the agreements with Uber and Lyft and the AAAE Transportation Security Clearinghouse.
There's also the rules and regulations that were handed out this morning, attachment to the agreements. Some people working for 3-4 months. Both have wanted to enter into agreements with us. We weren't able to. The legislature changed the language a few years ago. And, the agreements are identical. There's no difference between the agreements other than the contact name and addresses. The goal is to try and have this up and running by August 1st. The problem we may have is the clearinghouse wants 30 days notice before they do it. They're trying to get it set up for August 1st. If not, it'll be September 1st. So the AAA clearinghouse is where Uber Lyft send their funds and then they distribute it out to airports. They keep 5% of the revenue for their distribution. It's very similar to the background checks that we're doing now through AAA. Allows for background checks. So we get this signed and sent off if you so choose to approve. Exactly how much revenue this will generate per month, don't know. Lyft gave us some information, which indicates about $10,000 a month in revenue. From them, I don't have anything from Uber. They haven't shared that. But we'll see where it goes. It's just a revenue thing. The other part that we'll work on in the future is similar to what Grand Forks has in Sioux Falls, is a permitting agreement with hotel shuttles and the taxi companies. Right now, the city permits the taxis. We're authorized under the Century Code to do some permitting of taxis as well. A couple $100 a year for the first 6 cars, and then so much for each car after that. That's something we'll bring forth later once we get time to talk with the taxi companies. But this is the first step in the process if you so choose to approve this today. And we'll try and get it up August 1st. If not, it'll be September 1st.
And Sean, so Lyft estimates 10,000, and then Uber would be 10 as well.
We don't know. They haven't shared any data. I don't know. Aaron, do you remember that from what they sent? They sent a spreadsheet with some estimates, but it was hard to read. It's $2 for every pickup. It's $2 for every drop off. Next year it goes to $225 for each, and then the final year is $250. Is that correct?
Correct. And originally they had proposed $2 for the 3-year term of the agreement. And Sean went back and suggested that it should increase to $225 in 2026 and $250 in 2027, and they accepted those terms.
The goal will be to get us to $4 at some point. That's kind of the cap at airports around the country. Just gradually get there over time.
I'm sorry, what was the cap?
4 is generally the cap for drop off and pickup. So we're kind of following the Sioux Falls model. This base agreement is identical to Sioux Falls with just some minor tweaks.
In that vein, isn't there a sales tax or some sort of rental car tax too that could be charged?
We're collecting 10% of their gross revenue right now.
Right, but there's also, I believe, some other tax that cities that have airports could charge.
They talked about it, but I've never implemented it here that I'm aware of. They talked about that in conjunction with the conference center. But I don't believe that's ever been implemented.
And just so we'd understand, as revenue sources are getting tighter and tighter, what that might potentially be.
In terms of what the agreement states, it's the $2, $225, and $250.
No, this is in the same vein, but it's achieving some additional revenue from vendors on and I recall reading somewhere there is that potential. I'm not saying we would do it, but what amount could be generated on that? I think other airports in North Dakota charge it.
We wouldn't collect it, the cities or counties could.
Okay.
We wouldn't collect that.
Well, again, as we look for revenue sources.
And it'd have to be for a specific tourism type purpose, so the conference center is the only one I'm aware of. that
Yeah, I
they
didn't
measure.
see anything in specific uses or anything else, just that it does allow, and I wasn't sure if that was the city could charge that
City, yeah.
or we would charge it to the airport.
Yeah, we would charge 10%.
So could it be a user fee instead of a tax? Is that what you're kind of asking?
I just went through it very quickly.
The other thing you could be referring to is a concession fee. So if we have a specific project that benefits the car rental agencies, say it's $1 million.
Yeah, no,
we could collect that.
this was an overall, and let's not get deep into it. Let's just take a look and see what it is and what the potential is for it.
So-
Revenue's gonna be.
So just so I can frame the question correctly, because when you first talked, you were talking about it like a sales tax, and I think that would, without having the information in front of me, be like a city sales tax that the city.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the city or the airport, but
Okay.
it'd be revenue generated around the airport. So, what is available there?
I will look into it.
Is there a motion to receive and
So moved.
approve?
Second.
Roll call.
Rashani,
Yes. Aye.
Osborne,
Hi.
Captain,
Aye.
So with Joan, could we clarify that for the minutes, that the motion would be to receive and approve the agreements with Uber and Lyft? Okay. All right, continue discussion the 2026 budget, and I want to thank Tana for being here today in person to go over some of the recommendations and numbers with us. Where would you like to start? For some, where would you
Okay. The budget that's in your packet hasn't changed anything. I don't think we changed anything from the
We
last
haven't
meeting.
since the second reading. No, so
Copies
the
here
last
if
board
anyone-
meeting.
I'll take a copy.
And
Thank you.
just a couple of the highlights is that it contains a 4% cost of living. The health insurance through the North Dakota Public Health Insurance Trust, we received notice our rate will go up 10.01% for 2026. And it proposes that the employee share stays the same as it is today, which is $370.24 for a family plan and $71.50 for a single plan, with the airport authority picking up the balance. A minor thing, but something I'll have on the next agenda, is to increase our fuel flowage fee from 4 cents to 6 cents. In 2024, that would have generated an additional $96,000 in revenue based on the fuel that was sold in 2024, remitted by Fargo Jet Center, Fargo Aircraft Maintenance, Donnie Schatz, and Group 6.
Is there anybody on the flowage fee? Everybody pays that.
Everybody that sells fuel on the field pays the flowage fee. That's
Okay,
correct.
so, and that's a percent or a cent per gallon.
Correct.
Every gallon that flows through their pump, we get paid.
That goes into, except with the exception is an aircraft that they own. So if Fargo Jet Center owns an aircraft and they use it for charter, we get 1.5% of the revenue from the charter. Yeah, that's been in place for as long as I've been here.
What's everybody else pay?
Everybody else is paying. I mean, the 4 cents right now is a flowage fee. And then we get 1.5% of their gross revenue, same as Fargo Aircraft Maintenance. That's the only two that we have on the field.
Okay, are we gonna have another one now? Are we
No,
gonna-
Fargo Aircraft Maintenance is moving to a new facility sometime by September 1st. And they're currently selling fuel to customers in Hangar 19, or their customers that come and get maintenance there. The board authorized them a few months ago to do 24/7 fueling through Titan. Do aircraft hangaring and maintenance. So the only change is they're going to 24/7 fueling versus just fueling their own customers.
So if someone buys fuel and just put it in their own plane, they don't pay the tax.
Correct. No, they do. So,
They
sorry,
pay,
there's another one. There's another tank, a community tank on the South GA, Fargo Air Incorporated.
Right.
Yeah,
Every gallon that's used on the airport is paying for cents.
That's right, cargo, airline.
And then if someone has a charter, they pay 1.5% times the charter, not the fuel tax or the per gallon.
Except so if they own the charter and they're using it for their own personal business, they own the aircraft, then that doesn't apply. The 2 cents doesn't apply. If Fargo Jet Center
4
uses one of
cents,
their airplane, that's correct. But if Fargo Jet Center is using one of their aircraft and XYZ company is chartering it to Bismarck, then they're paying us 1.5% of the charter rate.
But if they're using their charter for their own use and not chartering out, then they don't pay
Correct.
tax.
You remember Pat take an airplane they own, they don't pay, or Dave Saul, if he has an airplane he owns, he doesn't pay. It's their personal. That's pretty much the exemption around the country is for their personal use.
Dr. Brajani, did you have a comment or were you just clearing your throat?
Clear my throat.
Okay, all right. I want to make sure that you get a chance
Thank you.
on it. So,
So if you on the construction side of it, the numbers that are in there, the latest information that we have from the GOF as far as the cash flow. So they say, we estimate you're going to owe us X number of dollars in January, X number of dollars in July, all through the year. There's a cash flow thing that Tana and I get. And those are the numbers that we have in there for the projects we plan to complete in 2026. Parking revenue number that came from SP Plus, their best guess based on starting the garage and hopefully what we see in revenue in 2026 with the garage incremental revenue.
Dana, Sean, wondering if you help me just as historical. I know we've got, just overall, we've got a revenue increase percentage. What amount? For this year's revenue, budgeted revenue increase. What percentage?
That would be all along here would be the percentage. Let's see if I can.
This is gonna be probably just get to it. Because what I'd like to understand is, I know we have revenue increases, we have expense increases. And I just want to see that trend over 5 years. What's the over under on our revenue estimates the last 5 years?
Yep.
And the over under on our expenses.
Yep, and I know that that was in your packet at
Yeah.
one point. Let me see here if I can just share. So if you're looking at that right now, and I can send it out again, but this has the let's see, is this the one here?
Yeah, I was just looking for a simple little table that we could.
For the increases over each year.
Yeah, and then, you know, our performance that year, what's the over under on revenue, what's the over under on expenses? What's that trend been? Just really high level trying to understand.
Well, I haven't broken out by year, but I can just, but I have the actuals in there versus, I have the actuals by each year and then the budget. So I guess if you're looking for like
Delta.
So right now, our proposed budget would be about 7% higher than it would be last year.
Then expenses, kind of the same thing. And then I just want to see the trend over 5 years.
Yep, and I have it, it's all right here, but I can just narrow it down and
Yep.
hide some of these fields so you
Yep.
just get the percents.
Yep.
Sure.
Perfect.
What other questions do you have?
Um,
It's straightforward.
one of the things I noticed that you highlighted in green, Tana, was the police and security services. Those costs have gone up.
What's highlighted in green is basically just what's changed from the first reading to the second reading.
Okay,
Yeah, the police department gave us their estimate. Reading to the second day, gave us their budget number. That number also includes the aviation worker screening cost as well, which the airlines are paying 100% for. Right now, the tempo is about a little over $800 a week for that program. And we don't know if the TSA will change the criteria, which you have to increase the annual checks that they have or not. But it's a low rate a week for that.
Yeah, bugging it here, but, Anna, could you help us understand, and this is common in government sponsored agencies, we talk about operating income and then combined net income. And I think we need to kind of have a consistent definition there, that there were comments made that the airport always makes money and the airport always loses money. And the confusion, I believe, is between the operations budget and the capital budget. And so I would like us to be able to agree on what term we're using. So is the net income from operations operating income or net income? And I think the big difference in there is capital.
No, so in my mind, capital's not in there at all, because in my mind, and maybe Sean doesn't think the same, but I think we are. So we have the operating budget. That is the day-to-day expenses. That's the day-to-day revenue, the day-to-day expenses. You have a net operating income from the daily operations. Then you have a capital account.
Yep.
That also has net operating. And that one usually is negative because there is money that the airport is contributing. The only income that comes into the capital account would be the property tax and then the federal and the state grants. And maybe like as foreign trade
tax, which
yeah.
is 50, 60.
Are we figuring into our operating budget depreciation and all cost of capital?
Not in our operating budget, no, we do not figure in
Yeah.
capital, and I don't count, depreciation is not, and I checked with Brady Marks to make sure I'm good with this. Depreciation you don't build into a budget, depreciation is an expense that gets written off once you do your audit.
Yep. No, and again, I'm just, as a board, we need to have a consistent term, because when we talk, in generalities, that the airport always makes money. Well, okay.
In the operating account, yes.
And I would call that operating income as opposed to net income.
Yes, you can call it net operating income, you can,
Because we have the city has the same thing with the dome. The dome shows an operating profit each year. But when you bring in capital costs and all the money that's contributed through other sources, the dome's never made money. And it's the same thing with the airport.
I mean, I can do an overall net, but I'm not good with that because I think operating's operating, capital's capital, PFC money is PFC money.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying, as a board, we need to have consistent terminology, that we aren't kind of saying different things with the same outcome.
And so the other revenue source into the capital account is the PFC revenue. Every month that money is transferred in because it's paying ourselves back for projects that were completed that were paid out of that account.
Yeah, and Sean, this is from our standpoint,
Right.
because we do have conflicting statements that have occurred, that we're making money, we aren't making money.
My term has always been is that the airport is 100% self-sufficient in terms of operations. That's what I've used forever.
That's operating it.
That's correct.
That's not net
Operations.
income.
That's correct.
And I think we just need to understand that as a board.
Well, I think to your point, John, we should probably call them like net operating income and then net capital income or expenses. So because there's really two buckets.
Oh, yeah.
I think that simplifies
The
it.
combined is always negative.
Well, yeah, I think we need to, I think that'd be more clear. So like in this budget, on page 11, it shows a break even for 2026 for our operating budget.
Right, and that you will see at that lower number right here, this 4.5 million will be transferred out to savings. Because last year, I think when we did the budget, you guys wanted to see a break even. And so by transferring the 4.5 million out into savings at the end of the year,
I thought that
gives
went,
us our
I thought
break-even
that was
budget.
going to the capital account.
and it will. I mean, our savings money, we say will be used as capital. And when I do the forecast for when we need money in the capital account, that 4.5 is counted.
That's what's
having
happened
money.
every year with any surplus and operating. It always goes into the reserves and then needs to be used for capital. So that's happened for years.
And I feel we should, you know, internally, it doesn't need to be anything on paper or approved, but know that, you know, we've always talked about, and I hate to bring it up, but cash on hand balances and minimum savings account balances in the operating account, and anything in excess of that, yes, I agree, should be moved to capital or parking. But PFC is kind of its own thing. We collect PFC dollars, we fill out PFC applications to pay for projects with those monies. And so we can't add money to that.
Because we have bond reserves as well because of the Bank of North Dakota loan. And
And what are our Bank of North Dakota covenants? Do we have a minimum dollar balance, days interest outstanding? What are those covenants?
We pay interest twice a year. We pay principal once a year.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what are their operating covenants? What do
we are required to have $1,000 in the Bank of North Dakota account.
That's our only requirement of that loan.
We have to pay reserves, so we pay a reserve in, which was like 265 or something like that this year, 265,000 into the bond reserve.
But there's not a minimum dollar amount. They don't want cash on hand.
No,
Okay.
no, they just require the bond
So the
reserve, and that's in.
days cash outstanding,
So-
8, 9.
So what she's referring to is actually like 330 some thousand. By November of every year, we have to transfer 300 some thousand from operating or capital into the bond reserve account. So 2 of those transactions have been made.
Yep.
Until it gets to a balance of a little over 1.7 million.
Right. And then those will be used for payments at the end.
Right.
To pay off the final.
Okay.
So Tana, you've made some recommendations as the CFO in areas which you feel there may be a duplication of services or an opportunity to save some money. Would you like to go through any of those?
Well, I guess if everybody has the handout in front of them, I know when I first did the budget presentation, I talked about RFPs and stuff. And
Which handout?
Excuse me,
The staff
Dina was mailed
recommendations?
to you this morning? Dina was emailed to you this morning?
I got it.
and basically, let's see if I can put it up here. I had talked about some RFPs. It's probably one of the only things I didn't have a specific conversation with Sean and Joan about. And after we met afterwards, I mean, they make a very good case. So that handout breaks out the RFPs and why or why not Sean and Joan feel that we do or don't need one. And so they've put their thoughts and stuff on there.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
what is our policy on RFPs?
On RFPs?
Yeah, how often, I know we have purchasing policies. And I know there's a threshold when we request them, but is there a time that is our standard policy?
I don't think we have a time period standard policy, just the board has the ability to put it out for an RFP, and then we have, and I don't have it. in
What's the
front of me.
guidance?
And I don't have that in front of me, because I know we were discussing that this morning, so I left my big file at home. But then you have those dollar amounts as to how, and, under a certain dollar amount, you don't need to.
Right,
You know,
right.
a certain
Is there any
service you need to.
guidance to 5 years, 10 years? never,
Federal guidance on engineering and architect is every 5 years. So we have to do that. On architectural projects, we haven't done that a 5-year deal. We do it on a project by project basis. That's up to the board. Like for the restaurant or the gift shop or the parking lot, you could every 5 years, but the board is taking.
we
into
haven't set a
consideration-
policy.
No, there isn't.
There's no, okay. That's one I think we need.
I think that's one of the topics that was brought up during our governance
Yep.
We have the
conversation.
option to extend or call for RFPs for anything that you have.
And just before we get going, the suggested ones, banking, attorney, air service, marketing, engineering. How long have we had the same vendor in each of those?
Banking would have started in 2022, 21, late 2021. When our banking started with First International, there was an RFP for that. So the city hasn't done one in more than 26 years for Sprague. It was in place there. That's a real difficult one to change. Attorney legal services.
We did change it though in 2021.
Well, we left the Wells Fargo group that the city had and then went out.
So we were able to make this change in 2021.
We had no choice. We had to.
Okay, but
we had to
No,
separate.
I'm just saying here in your statement, you're saying very difficult, hasn't been done by the city, but
Once it's set up,
in 2021, that was accomplished.
and it was very, very painful.
Again,
I'm just telling you.
yeah,
I
and
don't care
I'm
if you
just
like my
asking,
opinion or not. I'm just telling you.
all
It's
right.
not something that organizations do very often.
And again, if it's difficult, we don't shy away from it. Try to deal with it.
It's fine.
So, attorney, legal services.
Pardon?
How long on attorney legal services since an RFP?
Stacy rolled in, Gary had it from 1969 up until he passed away.
Okay.
And Stacy had been with the firm, was the most familiar with the
And just
aviation.
how long?
Since 69, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
1969.
Yeah, I would say the Silver
Well,
Law
if
firm.
Solberg and Stewart had
It actually wasn't even an
section of the airport authority.
It wasn't even an RFP. Gary was assistant city attorney when he sold.
Okay.
Just
Air service development, how long is that?
all we have right there is just a contract for the 1875 per month or 22.5 per year.
Yeah, just how long, Sean? 10 years, 20 years,
Start with
5 years?
Probably 2000, 22, 23 years, probably in that range.
22.
23 years.
And marketing, Flint,
They've been here since 1998.
and the engineering's every 5. And
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, if, I don't know if you guys want any further discussion, but Sean and Joan and I had met and these were their thoughts. And honestly, the banking one, I guess, I should not have even brought up because that truly is a no-brainer. If we have a good relationship with the bank, most banks offer the same businesses the same rates and they're very competitive. And due to us getting deposits and everything from all of the airlines, the PFC payments, things like that, it would be a major issue to switch banks and change.
Jen, I agree that it's difficult, but at the same time, we are a municipal funded organization. And when we're going out for services, there could be new banks that have entered the market, changes to different things. So, I think what we need is policy on requests for proposals. And even though they are difficult, we should be checking those things. In that, any entity within the city, now we can't restrict it to just city vendors, but that there should be a chance for our vendors to be able to bid or decide whether they even want to put an RFP in at some point. And because it's hard, I don't think we.
And that's
Skip
true.
it.
I mean, you make a good point. Yes, there could be an RFP. It could be put out every 5 years or whatever. Banks could come in and make their their play as to why they're the better bank, and Sean and Joan could still recommend to stay with the current bank, but at least it's put it out there. Everybody's given their fair shot to say what they have, so. It's not saying that it would be a change, it's saying that, everybody has their opportunity to show what they could bring, so.
Thank you.
Well, certainly when we do an RFP, if the current bank is doing a great job, that they would win the new RFP, but it would give a level of transparency.
Right.
And I guess that was provided because in the last commission meeting, I believe you had asked Sean to provide some documentation as to what they would recommend or why they would recommend it. So this would be them putting that on paper for you to see.
And the only, let's see. Information technology, do we have a vendor there on our IT?
We do, that probably should be on your cyber advisors, was SNL Computer. About 3,000 a month, roughly. You can add IT.
And that would go under what cost? That intern what?
And services is under 34.15.
So are they facilitating like the Wi-Fi or?
Anything that they
Cyber
do.
advisors.
So they do cybersecurity.
Yeah, our firewalls, all of our Microsoft licenses for everyone. Then like if there's a service file or something going on so much a month, then they can.
Do they also then provide Wi-Fi? Or who does that?
Well, Cyber Advisors actually has a sonic wall for the Wi-Fi, but Consolidated actually provides the service.
Okay.
So we take Consolidated for like the Wi-Fi here in the terminal and our network for the fire maintenance shop, now the parking ramp. So
Okay.
So on page 9, you'll see that it's a significant jump in the technical services. It goes to 171,200. Primary reason for that is AeroCloud. That's the agreement that you approved for the common use and gate computer system. That's 111,000 for that in and of itself, plus about $9,000 is our customs and border patrol recurring IT costs as well. But the significant jump in IT is for the AeroCloud system. We started with them, I think, in 2022 or late 2021.
Good. One other thing on these the recommended RFPs. Some of them have dollar amounts, some don't. Can we just zero in what these costs are? And it seems some might be contract amount plus additional charges, and so I would like to know what the contracted amount is, and then what total payments to that vendor is per year. So if there's additional work, this was a little bit just a consistency there so we can look at these.
Each contract. So you got the air service one is 22.5 per year, and then. like I said,
Yeah,
I
and we
think
don't
you
have to go
started
through it now.
with
That-
CD attorney one. So which one is missing? Marketing, I think
We don't have banking.
banking fees or what, Tana? It's in the budget,
Again,
3,000.
we want to,
I
we're
think
trying to
that's
get
probably a
information
quick
to
guess,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think our main issue here is the budget.
Yeah.
And so recommendations, I mean, some of these are just operational suggestions that may or may not affect the budget in 2026. I think that's, before we go down, that just kind of separates the two. I think that's kind of what you're saying, John. What are things here that impact our budget? Kind of.
Services fee was $2,500.
And
whole
again, John, this is where we want to spend a little more time with the budget instead of just, it's this, it's that.
But it's in the budget.
Yeah, well, it probably relates to again, I'm not suggesting we do this, but we have, a huge chunk of cash sitting somewhere. Is that the best thing for us to do with that cash? Rather than what are the fees that each bank charges for their CDs and that kind of thing. And I'm not suggesting we go down, I'm just using that as an example. So as we go through this, that's kind of my thinking. What are the things that really impact the budget?
And so, like, when I'm to follow up, Rick, because some of these I think may be governance issues with the RFPs but then also, so I see the staff recommendation, and is that made in response to, Tana, your recommendations for cost saving? Like, are we like balance tax and accounting, is there ways to save money in our budget for some of these positions? And I see here we've got, like, we could save $41,351 a year. Can you go through that?
Yeah, so I guess on the second page when we talk about, so right now, Sean and Joan they get the bills, they pay the bills, they do all of the internal accounting. We use balance and tax and accounting. They reconcile the bank statements, they make journal entries for what comes in for the grant monies and stuff. They work with the audit at the end of the year, updates fixed assets, things like that. And then you have what I'm doing for iBailey, which is the capital projects, the cash forecasting and stuff. But it's kind of hard for me just to stay in capital projects without going into the operating, because I feel like I need to know both. If you're asking me my opinion, balance tax and accounting could easily be eliminated, and it's something that I can do, because and Sean and Sean can speak separately, but what I don't like from balance tax and accounting is they go in once they get the bank statements and they reconcile. Being as big as we are, it would be nice to be able to have the bank accounts updated daily, the deposits hits, they're recorded in QuickBooks, the grants are in there. We're not waiting to see what the estimated bank account balance is until the middle of the following month. Sean can always go in and pull up the bank statement, the bank, but I don't know. I feel the benefit that they're providing for $32,000 a year is very minimal.
Does it make your job more cumbersome? Or like you don't have all the information?
Kind of, because I have to wait for them to finalize everything before I can finally go in and reconcile my grants to the FAA site, to what we've submitted for reimbursement, make sure it's hit the checking accounts or it's posted to the right accounts. So my stuff I don't really do until probably the third week of the month, once I know they've already been in there and started for their day.
So where did I read? Like we're paying Ide Bailey for your services. So if we were to, for instance, just employ a CFO,
Mhm.
not to kick you out of your job, but
Right, but if you
if
were
we
to,
were to have a CFO that the airport hired instead of additionally paying a fee to Ide Bailey, what type of cost savings would that be?
you know, I don't know dollar wise, I don't know that you would get a great cost savings.
Okay.
Where you would see it would be in the hours. So you could probably get, if we look at like an internal CFO, full-time, 40 hours a week, you get an extra 1,200 hours out of them for the same price you're paying.
And then that could be like the balance tax and accounting
Right.
duties or
Yes.
something.
Yes. So I don't know that your cost savings would be huge, but you would be getting 1,100 hours dedicated to the airport.
Jim?
Well, when you consider the benefits that go in with it, I don't see any cost savings at all.
The benefit,
And it becomes an expense.
can you clarify that?
Pardon?
Can you clarify that?
Well, benefits, when you, health insurance, retirement, all the benefits that goes into hiring somebody.
Okay.
The
Do you estimate just salary or?
No, I worked with Joan a little bit. We updated it with the benefits, the payroll taxes, the taxes that the airport would pay on behalf of the employee, the benefits, the retirement.
So that's an all-in.
It is.
okay.
So the net gain could be more efficiency for
Right.
less.
Your net gain would be efficient in hours, not necessarily cost. It's pretty much a break even at $2,100 is what the savings would be, about $2,100 less. That's assuming they took the full 8% pension and stuff. It kind of depends on what salary you would set that at. If you look at doing it like a 30-hour a week internal employee, your savings would be about 41,000, and you'd still gain about 670 hours.
Yeah. Some CFOs do HR functions also. So, not their favorite, but it does happen.
I don't know. I liked it.
No,
I
I've
did
just
it-
seen CFO/HR.
Yes, some do.
Those hours
Yep.
get then.
Yep.
The one thing in the budget, it may be in here, but I would like to look at the, sort of our management, our chart, starting with Sean coming down and what the salaries are in those boxes.
I believe they do have like a pay. Everybody has like their pay level, right, Joan? And then you have so many steps in your
Correct.
pay thing. So they have that where every employee fits.
Yep, I'd just like to see that, what the amount, what the pay is, starting with Sean, moving down, because I think in here they were suggesting, I think, Sean, your comments was close to 200,000 for CFO.
I didn't say that, it's in the packet here, yeah. It's close to 200. The numbers that are there is what.
Yeah, I just want to see what our management structure looks like. And I know we have Joan and Sean and Darren and I don't know who else contributing in some of these areas, just what that looks like. And then, again, to Jim's point, the benefits attached to that. And then any other payments to, I don't know if we're supplying car allowances, whatever. We have that information.
Yeah, there's a line item for car allowance. Darren and I get, how much is it a month?
$70. It's like 35. It's a mileage. It's not a car allowance.
Mileage.
Again, we're just trying to get information for the budget. I'm trying to
Less than
solve it, right?
2,000 a year for both of us.
How many hours did you put in the last 12 months?
That would be up to date in there. So, hold on, let me see. My spreadsheet's probably.
Oh, that's on the second page here. First page.
And it does get a little bit higher this time of year when we start doing budget and talking about mill rates and stuff like that. It does go down. So 688, and that's from June. That's from just this past June to the prior
Sure.
July. So.
Approximately 12 months. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was your point. Hiring a full-time, you're getting 2,000 hours
You'd be getting
versus 690.
1,400 hours
Mm-hmm.
for similar costs.
And when you were in Grand Forks, you were full-time
I was.
as a CFO? And then what additional duties at Grand Forks did that CFO position
So my
entail?
title in Grand Forks was Finance HR Director. So I did the budget, the audit. Somebody entered the bills. I approved the bills. Somebody paid the bills. I did the monthly financial statements. I did all of the tenant lease buildings, the CPI increases, everything like that except writing the leases and stuff. That our director worked with our attorney on that. So all of that stuff, the PFCs, the PFC applications, the ACDBE programs. Then I did all of payroll and all of HR. Although we did use payroll professionals' payroll software. So we paid them for their software, but they did not process payroll for us. I just used their software. So I did all of their payroll, all of the W-2s, all of the tax filings, new employees, all of the benefits, the exit interviews, the open enrollment. I worked, ND-FIT was just coming on at that point. And so I worked with them for all the benefits.
Do we use a payroll services company?
Resources. does
They do
all our
they do the payroll.
HR and
Yeah.
safety, that's in there.
Okay.
And I noticed we've got bi-weekly payroll.
Yes.
Can we go to monthly? Cut our costs.
I don't know. Is that something you guys have considered, Sean?
A few years ago, the board talked about it, but chose to keep it the same. I don't know that there's any.
We're running
Because
two
Pro
payrolls
Resources-
a month versus one.
Yeah, but Pro Resources fee is based on a percentage regardless of how much it is.
Right. It's based on a dollar percent.
It's based on a percentage.
County pay monthly or bi-weekly?
Monthly.
There's no
Some
say-
places pay monthly, but they give like a $500 deposit or something like that in the middle of the month, just because outside of management, a lot of employees are still liking that income twice a month.
And so I see staff recommendation is to have ideally absorb the balance in tax accounting work. So that could save us potentially $32,000. Is that correct?
That's the cost for this year.
And in talking with Sean and Jim, that would be the only change that they would be acceptable with. I'm not saying they're fully on board with everything or anything, but they said if there was a change to be made, that would be one that
Would be what?
would be acceptable.
The only thing is, if you look at the third page, the segregation of duties, so in the 2024 audit, it was the first time there wasn't a finding on internal controls, over balance tax and accounting. Ike Bailey, an outsource, and then what Joan and I do, the three legs, they took that finding away.
Mhm.
That finding could come back.
It could. I talked to Brian Opsdahl at Brady Marts, didn't talk. I emailed with him and asked, and he said it doesn't really matter if it's separate companies, as long as the duties are segregated within the office. So like Joan would have to enter the bills. Sean could approve them. Even if Joan pays them or Sean pays them, there still needs to be another person who looks and says, yes, this report looks correct, everything balances, and signs off. There still has to be like a three-way. And if it's, I don't know if you guys have things written down or,
They have that was in the audit or it's in their notes, the internal
Okay.
controls that we followed for quite a few years.
okay. And the auditors usually review that every year as well, sit down and ask what the process is.
I'm surprised the auditors didn't interview any board members.
They usually don't. It's usually
Maybe just walk through these last two pages of the numbers, just
so the numbers is basically the blue section on that last page is right now Bailey, that it's my services plus we have like a cash forecasting software that we use. And Bailey also charges a 5% tech fee, which is across the board for everybody. Nobody gets out of that 5%. So that 5% is figured in there as well. But I just broke that down. If it was, what if you had a full-time CFO at 40 hours versus 30 hours? And then the green section is take out that cash forecasting software piece to it. It's called BP&A. But you take that portion out. And there's a few less hours, and that's broken down by 40 and 30. But honestly, I would just stick to the blue portion because regardless if it's an internal person, there's going to be some development of some kind of forecasting software needed.
Kind of, we used in the past Leibowitz and Horton.
Mm-hmm.
Does that anticipate continuing with them in here or?
That contract's done. That was part of the terminal planning contract with Mead Hunt. We didn't have a contract with them.
And Leibowitz and Horton does.
So Mead and Hunt was paying that or?
For services that were outside the scope of what Mead and Hunt was doing, we did pay Leibowitz and Horton directly. But they were brought here as part of the terminal planning and forecasting and accounting. We're done with it. We'd have nothing to do with it. We're done.
Again, that's what I'm trying to understand with some of these contracts. Is that there's the RFP, there's a contract amount, and then there's add-on services and benefits. If we can look at those, what are we paying Mead and Hunt in addition to our RFP covered services? Are we? Because that's kind of where you go sliding down the slope and don't realize where you are.
There's lots of things included in their contracts, test quality testing sometimes
Yeah.
is or isn't.
And again, I'm talking about the add-ons, and maybe they aren't significant.
They would be. They would have to be a change order that would come to the board to
But
approve the
Leibowitz, you
cost.
just said Leibowitz and Horton.
They were part of the Mead and Hunt contract, like
Right.
Terracon was, or
You said we were paying for them.
but there was for services that were outside of the scope of their contract with Mead and Hunt. They billed us separately for those things.
And that's, again, what we're trying to understand.
But we've been done with them for quite a few months.
And what Leibowitz and Horton was doing was a lot of this cash forecasting where they had kind
They
of
had a
laid out.
cash flow model,
Yep, they did.
not an accounting model.
Right. Theirs was in Excel. This isn't an actual software, but it could be done in Excel. But that's what Leibowitz and Horton was doing. We haven't touched base with Monica. I haven't. And
Yeah, no,
many months,
again,
but-
I'm just, as we look at these things and try to understand the costs, is that sometimes we start adding things to these contracts that are outside of the contract. And that's why as we go through these, I'd like to see contract amount from financial, the actual cash paid out to them per year.
Because one example is the Art and Amenities Committee. That was an add-on to me, not that this board did for $230,000.
12. So, I think some of these vendors were in place before the board decided to add the CFO position. And then when we did add the CFO position, we decided to go through Eide Bailey. So now that we're a couple years in, if there's a way to get the CFO services without and to look at some of the additional, perhaps like duplication of services, and to save some money and get more hours. I mean, perhaps even if we had a full-time CFO like they did in Grand Forks, some of even Pro Resources duties could be rolled into that position. And I'm not saying get rid of Pro Resources. I'm just saying if we can do more in-house and then our Pro Resources bill would be less as well.
No, it would,
No, they're $65,000 a year, no matter what they do.
it's based on wages, based on payroll.
It's a percentage of payroll, period, for all of the services they bring, HR, safety, workforce safety, all of that. Percent, so it doesn't change.
Because I remember you saying that they did the safety, and that was an important role, obviously.
And HR
Yeah.
and benefits management.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, again, now we're gonna in the job descriptions, but a combination CFO, HR could make recommendation as to what outsourced services they wanted to hire. I don't think they'd have to go with the full 65,000. There's an a la carte menu, and that's part of the function of the position, is to identify those things. Again, make recommendation based on most efficient use of resources. And so I would look to that position if that's where we're headed, to make those recommendations. And quite frankly, just looking at these RFPs and some of them, I think we've been very deficient in our governance, not to at least taking a look at RFPs for some of the longstanding 1998, 1969. So again, I think that these type of policies in that function.
Oh, John,
Yep.
can you speak a little louder to
Sure.
make sure that we get this on the?
Yep.
Is that a speaker right there that you
Yep.
could slide over a little bit?
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's not.
No, that's not.
Okay.
It's this one up here.
Yeah.
And that's, okay.
I'd like to save a little bit of time to go over capital fund too.
Okay.
'Cause I think that's really what the Mills with the City is all about. That's where we're using that money, so I think it'd be good for us to, I don't want to cut this discussion off, but
Can we also go over the internal marketing?
We just went back to the presentation Norm Robinson gave the board, and everybody nodded their head that feasible, didn't make any sense, the cost didn't make any sense. The value that Flint brings, that you'd have to duplicate with an internal person. So you go back to Norm's presentation, nothing has changed in terms of the recommendation. The cost is,
Sean, I will. Norm did say that if you had an internal position, they could continue some of the services from Flint and or a national firm in those. And again, that's part of the position. It's not, no, don't do it. It was, if you have an internal position, then you could look at Flint's contract and again, it was part of the discussion on how to go forward. This was not a hard recommendation. It said, do not do this. It said, here's what you need to look at.
So, when I've gone to the airport marketing conferences, all of the attendees, it was about 50 plus airports, mid-sized airports, all of them had an in-house marketing person. And in addition to, also employing like a larger firm as well, but now you've kind of got boots on the ground when you've got, events happening in the airport. But I know there's been concern, even like programming the sign or programming airport information or baggage claim, that type of thing, where if you had an in-house marketing person, they could do some of those types of duties. Do you have a recommendation financially?
Well, it would
I
come
don't
on,
see any
well,
numbers for
it
that.
would come out of the salary. So if you're asking if there's a recommendation, if it could be afforded, yes, it could be afforded. Because right now, our operating budget has an excess $4.5 million of revenue. So that amount is being transferred to capital savings. So if you're asking if the operating budget can afford an internal person, the answer would be yes.
But I think that issue would related more to not necessarily saving money, but getting more marketing done. I think the discussion was half the money we're spending on Flint is not actually digital advertising or money that we're spending. Half of that money is just,
Cost.
I wouldn't say cost, but it's like maybe a higher cost person doing some things that could be handed off to someone internal.
And I
So,
agree.
I mean, that's kind of, I think, the issue there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we had the marketing contracts for people who wanted to advertise, like on our little digital signs in Grand Forks or on the FITs and stuff. And those ads were given and uploaded and ran and monitored, and updated the programming and anything like that. We also worked on the website a little bit and were able to make changes on the website. The Facebook page, but I get having, Flint do an overall marketing campaign keeps everything cohesive and consistent. And but I don't know. I guess my thoughts are with this new terminal opening and the parking, and we have all of these gates and all of these things coming into the terminal. It would kind of be nice to maybe have a marketing person who's kind of out and about in the terminal saying, oh, you want to get here, here's where you get here, check out this room here. Just kind of be out and about to help guide people who are going to come in and it's not going to be what they were used to. They could do something like that. I mean, plus I know there's other things in the terminal, to get the music and the choirs and all those little random holiday things that could be coordinated and not have to worry about somebody else doing them. I think there's a lot of little things that they could do, and maybe have to work with Flint to see what can be done internal that Flint is doing that maybe could be handed off easily.
So Flint does a great job, like with the emergency communication and some of the other things, just like the models of other mid-sized airports where you could have somebody in-house working in collaboration with a company like Flint, who also has a long-term relationship. But now you've kind of got boots on the ground in-house that gives you a more like agility, quicker response when you've got whether just coordinating, like you said, community things. How much money did we spend with Flint last year?
450, 460.
I know they're
Part of the budget line item is what we spent with Fargo Jet Center as well.
Flynn's been a great partner. I mean, we're just, and I think they provide a really integral role here. But if there's a way to do something in-house that would give us a little bit more personalized service that could even do some of the other duties.
You know, Flint for 2026 is proposing 586,000. Although if you take out the paid media, they're proposing 330,000. Would be their services.
I need to take off pretty quick, so I don't know.
So you want to hit the mill.
Well, I just like to look at this page 10. And I think if I understand that correctly, that's the capital budget. So I think if I look at the very, well, I don't know if you get that. But if I look at the very top line, we're talking about city and county tax revenue.
Yes.
And so if I look at the actual for 2024, it was 1.5 million. And then if I look at what was our total capital expense, it was 22 million. Correct?
In 2024.
Right.
It was 30.
22.
The actuals. Yep. 2020. Yep.
22.2. Then if I look at 25, the city was putting in 1.6 and we spent almost $100 million. And then in the proposed, it would be 1.7 and we're spending 45 million. So I think that's the point that I think gets lost in all this debate. I mean, this is a local share. Right? And this is what we're asking for, is a local share to help match all these federal dollars and state dollars, et cetera. But does this page just really sum up the capital budget?
Yes. Yes. So that page takes into account the expenses for 2026 are laid out with just the totals showing how it's laid out on the forecast right now based on the assumptions that McGow has given us for the terminal expenses through 2026 as well as the parking.
So this sheet covers that.
Yes.
This is kind of the roll up of a lot of other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In that vein, Sean, you mentioned you and Tom Schauer would be traveling to Washington, meeting with FAA.
We did, yes, last Wednesday.
I was hoping we could see what you were presenting. Is this what you were presenting? Somehow I think we need a little better communication with the board when you're going to meet with the FAA that we know.
They requested an update. Tom had shown it to you on the screen here. I'll get a printout of it for you on the additional asks, not for this year and for 2026, basically focusing on the 2026 budget.
Yeah, it was just board information. I think
10 million.
should have had prior to that what the ask was.
It's the same as what he's presented here.
No. What happens there is you and Tom, and is that part of the Mead and Hunt engineering contract, or was that an additional, or what is that?
It's part of the services they provide, yes.
All under
Under the Mead and Hunt contract.
Okay.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, what I was curious about, because I know you had made that comment that you and Tom were going, but we'd never seen what you were going to present, and the board never approved what you presented. And I think that's again a governance issue that we have to be careful about, is that you and Tom went and presented something. This board has no idea what it
It's the
was.
same as what he presented.
Again,
I hear you. It's fine.
it hasn't been discussed or approved by this board.
speaking of that, is there, is the 9 heated and air conditioned new jetways instead of the refurbishment? Is that included in this budget? Because I know we approved it, but then there's another question about if it's
Yes.
eligible.
Yes, when I talked to Tom a while ago, we added the $6 million grant for the jet bridges, and then we adjusted the price for the new ones instead of the refurbished ones. So that is in the forecast, and those numbers are in the budget.
But we have 4 non.
Yeah, all 9 will have heating and cooling added, and then 4 bridges that were gonna be restored are gonna be.
Okay.
I'm sure we'll get a grant for that cost. It was estimated at $6 million.
Are we retrofitting or are they ordered? So they'll 9 new bridges.
Right, 1 is already new, so it doesn't have to be replaced. 4 are on the way for the
And those are heated and air conditioned from the factory, or are we doing an add-on here?
There'll be an add-on to 5 of them.
Is that efficient or is
It's
it
the only way they can do it. 4 that will come will have heating and air conditioning. The 4 that were already ordered way back when,
Is there a price difference?
was it added, I don't have it in front of me. There was an added cost, yes.
Yeah, it was, I guess it was in the board. Remember that graph, you know, all boxes.
It includes let me look here,
Was it back in May?
the Terminal 5 GMP, hold on here, make sure I'm on the right line. The Terminal 5, the GMP number 5 includes 1.445 million for the building bridge reno, and the 4 new jet bridges are in GMP 3. And that was a cost of 51,033. So that is built into that GMP.
There wasn't any savings in ordering original equipment.
I think the issue was we were able to get the 6 million. And so that's why we went with it, because the cost would probably be a wash. Yes, the cost was higher, but it allowed us the $6 million grant that would be approved for.
ATP grant, which may be an amendment to the current one or a new grant in 2026. We'll see.
Madam Chairman, before Rick has to leave, are we looking to take action here on any of this, or do we want to take this information and take action at our August meeting, which is
Well,
also will be approving the final budget in August, I think.
so yeah, we're supposed to approve the final budget on our August 12th meeting. And the reason that I did call this meeting is because we currently don't have any committees.
Right.
And so when I had mentioned at the last meeting that I thought the finance committee should meet and bring recommendations to the board, we don't have a finance committee anymore. So until we get governance in place that will establish committees, I felt that this conversation was probably longer than a regular board meeting would allow for. And certainly a budget is worthy of discussion.
Would you like a motion that we could vote on these issues, or do you want?
Let me ask you this. So how do we approve a budget when we don't know what our mill levy is going to be? I mean, it seems to me that we really
Valid.
can't act on that till we know. And I guess the other question is, what's the August deadline? Where do we,
The mayor presents his budget sometime in August, and we've always been asked to have our budget approved prior to his presentation. But as you say, if it doesn't include the levy that we've requested, then we've got to do some amendments.
but it's I guess again, so it's the city wants us to present the budget to them.
Just have it approved, and then we send it to Mike Redlinger and Susan Thompson.
Once we approve it, it's obviously public record. Anyone can.
Correct. They've never asked us to present.
There's no hard and fast deadline for us to approve the budget.
They had requested it be approved before the mayor's presentation. That's always been kind of the standing understanding, but I can ask Redlinger if it can go later.
So,
Well, I think we can present our budget with, whatever we want to ask for in the mill levy.
We've already certified
We
that.
would have to, they've already had their first meeting, which I think is not to exceed numbers.
We've already certified the levy to them.
well, again, I'm just saying, to me, there is a lot of issues hanging out here that I think, we need to make some decisions to move forward. But
And Paul, I thank you for calling the meeting, because what we would have kind of run into here is August 12th, quick approve the final budget without these type of discussions. I think we can make a motion to do these things now, or we want to have that these potential changes or to the budget at the August 12th meeting and then approve the budget.
Just, if I could say, right now, the budget has all of the costs built in, balance tax, payroll professional, Eid Bailey, it has everything built in. And what's been shown is it's pretty much a wash as far as the cost goes. It's more of the hours and the efficiency that would be in the discussion. So as far as that is all in the operating. So I don't see those costs changing a whole lot regardless of which way you decided. So I think the budget could still move forward with the costs that are in it for those items. And then you really have until whenever you have to determine which way you want to go with it.
Now, I believe at the August 12th meeting as well, we're going to the Arts and Amenities Committee is going to present the new signage on 19th Avenue North. And is that in the budget? I mean, that would be another variable.
No, that would be, I guess that's a conversation for me to have with Sean and Joan. It is a sign, it is a cost. To me, it's a capital cost, so it should come out of the capital budget because it's not a daily operating expense, and that cost is not built in there.
Okay.
Any additional arts and amenities costs or contracts, those would be daily operating because those are meetings and things like that. And there's nothing like that in the 26 budget for any continued discussions like that. But no, the signage and stuff is not in the capital.
Didn't we have, what did we, I thought when we selected the sign company in the RFP, I thought we authorized that purchase.
It's turned over to the Art and Amenities Committee for coordination.
I think this is way before the Art and Amenities Committee.
And I'm just kind of rolling back here, I guess. I would like a little more time in these recommendations. I mean, I feel like we've got a lot of recommendations here. Staff doesn't agree with these recommendations. I don't think we just make a motion to do whatever. I mean, I think we need to maybe sort through this and give, so I think we need to figure out maybe, again, is there area that we agree on, staff and board, to address some of these things? Or if we don't, then take it up to meeting on the 12th.
And then also, are you looking to delay the approval of the budget until after the city makes its decision?
Well, I'm just throwing that out. I don't know. I mean, we should certainly get them our capital budget right now so they understand where that money's going to.
They have it.
Well, anyway.
They have the presentation that Paula had when she was at the meeting on the 7th. So they have that presentation that laid out the capital projects that are coming between now and 2030 or even 2032. And then after that, I mailed them a copy of the second reading of the budget or the budget that we had on July 8th. And then the parking information, which they had asked about as well.
I think I don't recall, I was at the meeting there were some requests from the city on what they want to see in our budget. The commissioners had asked for some specific.
For the parking.
For the
I think
parking.
Commissioner Strand asked to see if the parking could be self-sufficient or when that would be and when possibly we may pay down the loan.
Okay.
And so I provided him those. I showed it to Sean before I sent it, using the same assumptions we had used before with the estimated revenue presented to us by SP Plus, and sent that to them as well with a copy of the budget.
Again, I think we're talking about the wrong issue with the city. I mean, this is their local match for $200 million that we've spent. They've done 1.5, 1.6 million a year. That's the issue. So I think we should, again, I think we need something more solid from the city. I mean, there's a mayor and 4 commissioners. We should find out if they're on board.
It sounded like,
And again, I don't want to just speculate because everyone's speculating. I know you guys did a great job, but I mean, to me, that pressure should be on them, not us. And
it sounded like there were some that were, definitely in favor. And, Paula drilled it home that this is the local match. If you guys don't,
I understand that.
the state and federal look for your local match, what the city is doing.
I
So
understand that. But again, I mean, these are things that we need to know.
Mhm.
Well, then should we recap very quickly what we're expecting in information prior to the August 12th meeting, so that we can, I hate to say we might want another meeting here, but the things that we're looking for information from staff. Joan, are you comfortable? You've captured everything, or you need us to recap the things that we're looking for?
Well, some of these discussions are difficult to have, so I appreciate that we're all here talking about and sometimes with a fresh perspective of how we can be more efficient and a better steward of our taxpayer dollars. So I appreciate everybody coming here and having the conversation. Change is hard sometimes. So do you feel that we need
Well,
to delay the approval, Rick, or what's the board's desire? And
Well, I think
please weigh in if
getting back to what Tana said, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. What we're talking about here is not really affecting the numbers. So I guess my question is, have we covered all the issues that a board should cover on the budget? And then how we implement it, whether it's external, internal, whether or not we do RFPs or whatever. I mean, that's another issue that needs to be talked about. But I don't see, unless there's something else in the budget, I mean, there's no reason we can't pass the budget as a budget with discussions on these things that were the recommendations. Is that kind of, yeah.
that's, like I said, the numbers are close enough.
Yeah,
that-
so I mean, we gotta separate these things. And I'm not comfortable in adopting all those or not adopting all those recommendations, because I thought they were, good, thoughtful suggestions from a third party that's looked internal here for a year. And again, staff doesn't agree with these, so we need to figure out, are there common ground in some of those that we can all agree that we'll do? And I think giving staff an opportunity to look at that with this discussion makes some sense.
Rick, I just want to make sure, and sometimes the budget is used as a reason not to do things.
Sure.
That we talked that we're still going to look at these and make changes if the board sees that it's fit, and that we get this additional information that we've talked about today. move it forward. So it's, said it's an interesting situation when we've got staff not wanting to do some things.
May I weigh in?
Of course.
This has been an hour and a half of really good conversation, a wide variety of very interesting topics. And I'm going to say something that I'm not asking for conversation about now, just for all of us as board members to be thinking about prior to the August meeting. For what it's worth, in my experience with corporate boards, our job at the August meeting is to approve or not approve the budget. We've given management a lot of input and advice on a lot of management prerogatives. That is not the role of a corporate board. And so at the August meeting, and this may or may not be in parallel with what Rick was talking about, our job is strictly to approve or not approve the budget, and leave management issues to management to decide. And again, I'm not looking to start a debate or anything. That's just food for thought for the August meeting. Thank you.
And we do have to have an approved budget in August.
That's what they've always requested. I will call Mike Rendiger to see if the deadline has changed. If it hasn't been communicated to us.
Is there something else you would like me to do or to provide to the city to push forward your
No,
points?
I mean, I'd probably vote against the budget right now. Okay.
Yeah, Tana, the only thing, and I just recall there were some questions coming at the end. It was whatever they've asked for, we get them. And I know the mayor was asking something about, I can't even remember, cash balances or something we didn't have the answer to, and just whatever they've asked, we make sure we get that for them.
Yeah. I would be ready to move on the budget itself, but I'm not ready to go on all these other things, request the RFPs and the internal marketing and that type for hiring of a CFO. I'm not ready to do that yet, but the budget I would be.
And I think some of those will fall under governance, and that meeting will be after our August 12th meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the RFPs is not, they're not really budget. That's policy.
Right.
That, like I said, I've already talked about those. The understanding of the RFPs, and again, I just want to make sure that when we're looking at some of these services, that we are including all the costs, all the payments to the vendor. It is, like I said, sometimes vendors have a fixed cost and then additional work around that. You might have a $50,000 contract and total payments of $200,000 or whatever that is.
And I'm full agreement of what Dr. Bashani had just stated too.
How would the board like to proceed?
I think this is the potential. I'm glad we had this opportunity to have the discussion. I wish we had another meeting prior to August 12th and the finalization of the budget to go through each of these, but I guess we would have to be prepared as it is now in the August 12th budget to make the decision on each of these as we go. And Dr. Bashani, I would push back just a little bit that a board should set policy and ask management to explore different ways of delivering the services that we are required to do. Is that to leave that totally as management decision? I don't agree with. There are those things that we need to weigh in on as a matter of policy and give direction on what we see as some potential changes that would be beneficial to overall operations.
The initial addition of the CFO position is probably a good example of that.
Yep.
Is there any more discussion?
Madam Chair, if you decide that there's an additional meeting necessary, the rest of this week I am booked solid with budget on county. But next week, the Tuesday or Wednesday, I'd be open.
Okay.
And I would move that we take this information, study it, come back to another meeting. But I do believe that we have to have a motion to accept or deny the budget in August, as we do with the county. That's really not a motion.
John and
It's
Jim
more of a
and
statement.
Jean, would you like another meeting to discuss the budget, or?
You know, we've got a lot of material here, and some of this is budget, some isn't budget, but
Yeah.
that yeah, I wouldn't mind having another meeting before final approval on the budget. Tana, the one last question I have for you. Is there final agreement on how the 3% cap is implemented? And are we requesting, I know we asked for the equivalent of 2 mills, but do we request dollar amounts now in the future or under this new law?
I think they're still
heard
deciding that.
I heard at the commission meeting that they were sort of talking that instead of mill levies, you're requesting dollar amounts.
And Susan has given us a dollar amount, which still basically translates to 2 mills. They're still kind of calculating it both ways till they get further clarification.
They've always been required to request a dollar amount.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering with this change in legislation, that again, I'm not certain everybody has agreement on the 3% or wherever we are with it. So I just
Susan took,
wondering where we're at.
Susan, I've got the email. Susan took last year's money and times 3% and came up with 1,739,000.
Yeah.
But I think there's some nuances in there that new growth is held out of that equation. So there's a little bit of calculus involved there, that it's not just a flat 3%.
Correct.
And what she provided us is what we have normally used, and we always use the high end of it because knowing that it will probably come in less if people pay early and get their discounts and stuff. But we always request in the high end because it is a not to exceed number.
Budget on the net.
And no, I'm just that we have some clarity there.
But, I agree. I don't think anybody knows it's 3%. The state legislature, I know, doesn't know. They just picked a number out of the air and said, this is it, to appease the governor. But I know our county chair has invited all of the Fargo legislators at our meeting today and throughout the week to explain their 3% budget and show them what our budget is. And some of them have a misconception of what we have in reserves and that stuff, which are earmarked and have been for the jail and many other things that the legislature figures, oh, that's money you can spend any place. No, it's not.
So yes to another meeting, I guess,
Okay, um,
prior to
So-
August 12th.
Jim, can you, email me your schedule? And then I can have Joan do a survey. I appreciate everybody, getting together, today, because I think, I'm glad we didn't leave it till the last minute.
Well, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st are open,
Okay.
I hope.
Okay, yeah, and just the information we've asked for today, that we have that information sometime prior to that meeting. We can look at it.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.